Have you checked out Trueflation in the last 48 hours or so? Well, folks, I think it is time that we all give props or credit where credit is due. Trueflation is the attempt at collecting millions of data points from tens of thousands of data providers in real time to let us know what's going on with inflation. Why is this important? Well, for generations, the Fed has relied on surveys and backward-looking information. Trueflation is trying to use technology to tell us what is actually going on. And yesterday, Trueflation reported, frankly, something we should all be excited about. First, US CPI, Consumer Price Index, is not below 2%. It is actually below 1%. Yes, folks, Trueflation is reporting as of yesterday an inflation reading of 0.86. Not to be outdone with importance, PCE, personal consumption expenditure, is currently reported at 1.18. That is the headline reading. But hey, who cares about CPI? Who cares about headline? We care about what the Fed cares about. And for the longest time, they have told us that PCE core is the one inflation metric that they anchor on. So what does Trueflation say about PCE core? Well, it's the highest reading of all three. However, it too is below 2%, coming in at 1.38. Now, obviously, this is something you and I have been talking about for at least a year on this channel. The Fed's outdated model relies on shelter inflation, which currently is reported at 3.2%. And if you look at real-time information, shelter inflation is actually negative. It is deflating. It has a minus number. Thus, the Fed is making decisions on, frankly, a bad data set. So when you hear the Fed talk about waiting for inflation to go down or this or that, I don't know what to tell you, but they're waiting for nothing because in real time, inflation is down. Also, don't know if you saw this, but PepsiCo just announced earnings today and they were good. They beat top line and bottom line, but there's a little thing that might be the start of something. What is that? Well, Pepsi just announced that they will be cutting prices on Doritos. Doritos obviously is a very big seller, and Pepsi is going to cut prices 15%. Now, if you look at the volume of PepsiCo over the last several quarters, it has been decreasing. And Pepsi now is saying, hey, how can we fix this? And that's the beauty of this supply and demand curve, is you've got to lower prices to increase demand. So again, your favorite Doritos will very quickly be deflating in price. Now, of course, this is just one company, but it's a big one. And if history is any signal of the future, you can look for other consumer brands to start cutting prices. Again, Doritos is first, it is national, it is massive, and it really could be the start of something else. We did get a bunch of earnings. Let's read through a couple. Palantir, shout out to all the folks that follow Tom Nash and Palantir crew. Once again, you beat top line, beat bottom line, and raised guidance. It is a pretty consistent theme over at Palantir. What I noted is their commercial business is growing quite robust. If you don't know, Palantir has for a long time been kind of reliant on government contracts. Now, their commercial business grew 137% year on year, and US revenue is up 93% year on year. Again, impressive numbers, spreading the risk in their book of business, solid execution by the sales team at Palantir. Disney beat top line and bottom line, A lot of that growth was on the parks, the theme parks. And I think I shared this. I did an event in Orlando. Shout out to Andrea and team for inviting me to speak. And Olivia and I spent the day at, I don't know, what's it called? Disney Orlando or something. And oh my God, it is wildly expensive. How do families afford Disneyland? I mean, seriously, I think it cost us like $1,200, $1,500 for like 6 hours, 8 hours. We got VIP passes, and Olivia bought some wands or something from Harry Potterville or whatever that's called. My goodness, Disney is expensive. And how can families go every year? Man, it's crazy. One I was looking for earnings yesterday, Simon Property Group. If you don't know who they are, they're one of the large mall providers, again, specifically Class A malls. Simon Property Group beat top line, bottom line, and revenue grew 13.2%. Again, for the folks that say malls are dead, Simon Property Group, is saying not yet. Other earnings today, I already talked about Pepsi. PayPal had, let's just call it very disappointing guidance. And I suspect their stock is getting hit this morning. Again, when you come in under guidance and stocks are priced on future earnings, that is probably not going to do good things for your stock. Last thing I read this morning is Rocket Mortgage. Talk about somebody talking about their own book, but I'm seeing the data and I think he's right. Rocket Mortgage CEO says mortgage loan volume is surging. Folks, this is something I told you was coming. Again, we had a rate and term refi boom last year. We are now doing cash out refis. In fact, Olivia and I should be closing one today and another one on Friday. Again, people like me are going back to their portfolios and going, let me peel off a little equity. Let's get ready to go shopping. And again, will be interesting. Don't know if you guys follow Ken McElroy, but I do. Ken McElroy on X specifically. He's most recently pitching an event coming up, I think in the next online event in the next couple of weeks. But what I think is interesting is his message. He is basically highlighting the pain from the GFC, where he was stressing out about cash, liquidity. And he was waking up in the middle of the night, not sure where the cash is going to come from. But now what he's saying is 2026 is going to do two things. It is going to make millionaires, and it is going to wipe people out. I agree. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I see it coming. This feels very much like late 2009, early 2010, where you can see the cracks. And now you're just looking for who's desperate, who wants out, who can't refi, who got crushed with bad debt. Now, Ken McElroy is going out of his way to say that these syndicators who are blowing up are not bad operators. They're just got unlucky with timing, which I say is crap. I think they are horrible operators who did horrible deals, and these deals were dead the day they were done. But hey, Ken McElroy is in the business. These probably are some of his friends or at least some of his acquaintances. And I get it. You want to be nice. But dude, I've been warning you. I told you about deals that I saw in 21 and 22. They were disgusting. Disgusting. And yeah, they were born to be foreclosures. And I look forward to picking up the pieces. Let's talk about the Fed. There's a lot of Fed talk now that the blackout period is over. And it's always interesting to figure out where each Fed member lies. Fed President Bostic. Stabilized labor market gives us space to wait it out. That's not the worst. So basically, Bostic is telling you, I'm in no rush to cut, but it gets worse. Need to be patient to get inflation down to 2%. To which I would say, Fed President Bostic, listen to my first 2 or 3 minutes. You're already there. You're delaying for, I don't know, political reasons. I don't know why you're delaying, but your models suck and your PhDs and surveys are broken. Upgrade the stuff to the recent technology and get out of the way. But here we go. This is the number one thing Fed President Bostic said. I didn't project any rate cuts in 2026. Fed President Bostic is out saying, folks, I'm not cutting no matter what. The job market's fine. We haven't beat inflation. We are done cutting. The last thing he did say, and this is actually becoming pretty consistent, so I think you and I could ballpark neutral. Bostic is saying maybe 1 or 2 cuts gets us to neutral. I've heard from 4 or 5 different Fed presidents over the last 30 days that are basically telling you 3% is neutral. And that's 2 cuts away. So again, I thought that was interesting. Folks, great news for U.S. manufacturing. Great news. This is great news. Again, we haven't had a lot to say about manufacturing in a while. ISM manufacturing surged to 52.6. Now, again, it doesn't really matter what this number was. It matters, A, is it above 50? Why? If it's above 50, it means manufacturing is growing, expanding. And if it's below 50, it means manufacturing is contracting. So again, I say 52.6. More importantly, this is the first time in over 2 years that manufacturing is expanding. So that means we've had at least 24 months of shrinking. And with any data set, 1 point does not mean anything. So let's hope for growth next month. But hey, you got to take the wins when they come in. And for the first time in over 2 years, manufacturing is growing. Let's congratulate some people for joining school. Remember, folks, school, there are lots of great things going on. We have 10 plus accountability groups, thousands of dollars in free education, 530 wealth builders, an active forum community, and of course, it is the only place that you can live stream our Vegas event. You do not want to miss it. There are actually 4 Zoom links in there: morning of day 1, afternoon of day 1, morning of day 2, afternoon of day 2. This is by far the best investment you could make. $20. $20 gets you in the room. You can pay attention to who you want, and you get all the extra stuff. I don't know why hundreds of you haven't signed up. Frankly, you should be gaming the system. You're like, hey, I can't believe Zuber's giving this all away for $20. I'm just going to join for a month. That's okay. I expect you to do that. But I also expect my community to keep at least half of you, because it is that awesome. So let's congratulate Stefan and Casey for joining. Thank you very much for that. And 2 days ago, I gave you the day 1 agenda. Let me now give you day 2 in the morning. Just like day 1, we are going to start with Gen Z. On day 1, that was Cody Davis. Day 2 is Dylan Miracle. He is going to talk about how he has raised millions and millions of dollars, how he's became a millionaire, and what he is doing next. Again, as a Gen Z in his mid-20s. No excuses here, folks. Then we're going to have Brandon, one of a loyal ORaaT follower, somebody doing some amazing things, ground up development in Texas. You could think of it as build for rent. He's going to share real numbers, real models, and talk about why it might be the way that you can do it. And then we have an OG, one of the earliest followers of One Rental at a Time, and someone I so look forward to getting on stage, Ryan and his lovely wife. They were one of the first people to actually send me a picture of them reading my book, One Rental at a Time. I still have it saved. She's sitting on what I'll call a park bench, reading the book. And I remember it vividly because it was the first time, might have been the second time, I got a picture from somebody I didn't know reading my book. And I just want to thank Ryan and his wife for that. Then we got some big, massive hitters. If you're in the Airbnb or short-term rental space, you know Rob from Rawbelt. Yes, folks, Rob's coming in. He's going to be talking about Airbnb and short-term rentals. Bring your questions, ask. He will be there. Then, of course, the headliner for day 2, Pace Morby. Pace Morby and his wife, Laura Morby, will be there. Again, presenting and taking questions. All of these folks will be taking questions from the room. So get there, and I'll see you there. Then we got Dr. Jeff. Dr. Jeff was there last year. Obviously, we went on this health journey this year. We're going to talk about some of the numbers. We're going to talk about what worked, what didn't work, and hopefully help you take care of your physical self. And then finally, we've got the 4 Avengers. We're going to be up there, Millennial Mike, Dion, Matt, and I, just taking questions from the room. That's how we're going to close out day 2. So again, we look forward to all of you being there. Don't know if you saw this, but student loan delinquencies are at a record high. Again, student loan delinquencies just hit 3.62 million. That is 8 times higher than 2020. Why is that? Well, folks, when you tell people that it's free or you're going to get it waived, they're going to go on with their life. And then when you yank it away, they're going to be caught short. So again, this is to be expected. This is just part of the cleansing process. This is why we're going to see a spike in FHA mortgages, because again, we did extend and pretend too long. This is just part of the process. When you take a garden hose and you restrict the flow and then you release it, you get that wave of activity before it balances out. So again, that's what's going on. And then the last thing, shout out Lance Lambert. Average mortgage rates as of yesterday were 6.17. Last year, they were 7.05. So down almost a full percentage point from last year. There you go, folks. Join school. You can still get tickets to our ORaaT event in Vegas. In fact, one person bought tickets yesterday. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So we're down to 15. Again, if you want to bring a teenager, just do it. You don't need to tell me. I want to see the next generation in the room so that we can continue my mission of helping people 50 years after I am dead and gone. And of course, don't forget that Steadily is Landlord Insurance. They once again helped Olivia and I on a property yesterday. We just signed the paperwork, and I gave them four more properties to quote, because again, Farmers keeps kicking us to foremost in doubling, in one case, tripling our fees. So no bueno, shame on you. But hey, it's their business. They can do what they want. Folks, take care. Hope you have an amazing day. We'll be back tomorrow at 7:30 a.m. for the daily financial news. Peace.